district, you know the Pope listens. Dynasty, our religion, for the blokes missing. On all of these trades, on all of these plays, on all of these grades. By the end of the day, y'all getting played. So, what you gonna do next? Try to fill up that flex? Send the homie a text? That trash offer's the best? You try to make it complex, then they text you back. Now all of a sudden they don't make any sense. Broaden your horizons, boy. Dynasty's not for the Simons, boy. These trades not for consignment, boy. Respect your opponent, y'all some piranhas, boy. This my advice, from me to you. Open up your cute little podcast queue. Search up GOAT District, my dude. Pop it in your ear, man, y'all know what to do. It's the... And I always be traded. And I always be traded. And I always be trading. Y'all try to betray them, but first you gotta bait them. Fish.
All right, what is up, Fantasyland? It's Thursday afternoon. We're running maybe a little bit late here, but better late than never. Our fearless leader JD has a action-packed schedule today, I guess we'll call it, and is unable to make it. So that means that I get to have my first Thursday tailgate with Rob, the hairy snowman, and I am definitely looking forward to this. Welcome, Rob. Glad to have you on, and glad to finally be a part of this.
Yeah, glad to finally be able to share a screen with you. I've seen you for over a year now, watching you, and nothing but respect again. And you guys are great, so appreciate you guys having me here, and hopefully I'll meet the standard.
Definitely more than that. So you've done a great job with these things, and that's why I'm so excited to get in on one of them with you. So. What we're going to do, for those of you, if there's anybody on here who's not familiar, basically we're going to kind of break down the Thursday night matchup. We're going to talk a little bit about, the DFS or fantasy implications of these, look at a little bit of the betting lines, the player props, things that you might want to do there, and just kind of open it up to everybody out in the chat room. If you have any questions, comments, any thoughts on it, whatever, we'll open that up a little bit later on and see what you guys have to say too. But should be a fun time. Make sure if you're looking for more general fantasy football advice, definitely stop in over on the Player Profiler Network is where we've been doing this. But JD and I do the GOAT District show over there every Tuesday at 8:30 Central, 9:30 Eastern time, and we cover basically everything that you're going to need for the upcoming fantasy week, help you kind of dissect the previous week, and it's a lot of fun, so join us there. It's on the Player Profiler Network, though, so when you go to YouTube, just type in Player Profiler, you'll find us there, and we'll help you get those rosters ready and win some of those championships. So looking forward to that, too, next week as well. So let's just jump right into it, Rob. Why don't you give me the review of how things went from last Thursday? What you felt good about, what didn't go your way, all of that. Just I'll throw the floor open to you.
Couple weeks ago, because last Thursday we had Thanksgiving, so we were off that. If I remember right, it was the Bears game, if I remember, and we were looking for a few things, maybe, but I. Honestly, you'd have to refresh me.
All right, no problem. So, yeah, it was. That's right. It was a couple weeks ago. I forget. Thanksgiving just kind of consumed me. Normally I can try to consume Thanksgiving, but it's one of those holidays where the consuming goes both ways. So, lots of family in town and plenty to do, and just it's so much football, and it's a whirlwind.
It's a great break. It really is a great break from work. Just be around family, have the football, just be able to relax a little bit. Fantasy football gets staged in. It's just a different feel that week with everything. Yeah, it's really nice. Plus, sweet potato pie.
There you go, man. You're a man after my own heart. So many people don't even know what sweet potato pie is, and that is one of the underrated 101s of the entire Thanksgiving holiday. No doubt about it. All right. So let's dive into this week just to kind of set the table. I think Last I looked, Dallas is favored by 8.5 over Seattle, and we were looking at a over and under of 47.5. Both teams played on Thanksgiving, though, so since they both played last week, we don't have the usual short week, which is a really nice benefit, I think, of the game this Thursday. We're so used to teams kind of coming in a little bit beat up, not a lot of time to prepare, all that kind of stuff, but both teams have had kind of the full week. I'm sure they took the the day off after, but that's just like a Monday after a Sunday game. You're going to take that off. So I think we're going to get both teams' best effort here. Dallas is at home again, and just as a reminder, last week they were at home and they won against their division rival, the Washington Commies, and it was pretty much a rout, 45-10. So much of a rout that this might be one of the most hilarious yet disrespectful things I've ever seen in a game. Was Dak hopping into the Salvation Army kettle and coming out with a turkey leg and eating it. And there was, the fourth quarter was like not even half gone. And he's over there chewing on a turkey leg. I mean, if you want to stick it to Washington and tell them, you know what, you're so done in this game, that was exactly the way to do it. So it was both hilarious, and just amazing. It was such a great celebration, and I'm glad to hear that Mike McCarthy had the sense of humor to just enjoy it and appreciate it for what it was, rather than coming down on him or anything like that. I'm sure he's going to get fined for that because that's a prop, but it is what it is. And then we turn around to that Sunday night game, and Seattle lost versus San Francisco, 31-13. I don't even think it was that close. Seattle's lost 3 of the last 4. This is a team that's really, they're suddenly scuffling. The passing game doesn't look as good. They've lost Kenneth Walker, it looks like, probably for this week. So, Seattle's coming in here with some things to prove for sure. So why don't you fill us in, Rob, on how you're feeling about all that, and just kind of take us into it a little bit.
Yeah, going back with the Cowboys, first of all, is, it's been kind of a joke for a little while. They haven't lost at home yet this year. They're 5-0 at home, winning at home, I believe, by an average of 20 points, scoring 43-plus points last 3 games at home, 30-plus points in every game at home. So, Dallas is one of those teams, they get up on you, they'll roll you, and Dallas has been rolling people at home. The Commanders being the last of the line. With the Seahawks, building a little bit on what you're talking about with Geno, you could say, Geno, the trends are 6 wins, total of 9 sacks allowed, 5 losses, 18 sacks allowed. They had a couple rookie offensive linemen last year that really performed well, better than anyone expected. Struggling a little bit more this year, a little more film on them maybe. But whatever the reason, the simple statistic is if they're getting to Geno, they're losing. So, and then now they're coming to Dallas.
Yeah, on the surface, it definitely seems like a recipe for potentially another Dallas rout here. I'm definitely I think Dallas is very much rightly favored, and I would be shocked if Seattle found a way to win the game. But what do you even think about that point spread, Rob? Is that is that a fair point spread, or?
I think it's a fair point spread. I think at some point, if you just look at historical trends, at some point Dallas is going to not cover at home. So you start fading these trends at a certain point during the season. So I don't know if they're going to cover at home. I am also kind of looking at this more at the total and thinking that we might go under on this. We'll talk a little bit more about it, but the matchups are going to be on the outsides with the wide receivers and the corners. And that's what I think is going to hold this game down for the most part. But we'll get to that.
Okay. Yeah. And I think to hit a 47.5, I mean, we're going to need Seattle to contribute something here. Because you look at, just their game against San Francisco, that one was 31-13, and with a 40, if the over under there had been 47.5, we'd have gone under on that one, right? And this is not even a home game for Seattle, so you definitely have to wonder about that. That looks like a pretty juicy line to me, for sure.
Another interesting stat, and I don't know if you could check me on this, but I think it's when Seattle scores under 20 points, they're 0-5 or 0-6, and they score more than 20 points, they're 5-0 or 6-0, whatever their win total is. So, the question now you start asking yourself, are they going to go over 20? Then it kind of matches with the over and them covering and, all that. But then if you think Dallas is going to win, probably Dallas covers in the under,
That makes a lot of sense to me, for sure. So let's kind of dive into the matchups. Let's look at it, from that side to start with. The Seattle offense against the Dallas defense. And again, on the surface, I'm not a huge gambling mind or anything like that, but I've been playing fantasy football for a while. Have stayed in a Holiday Inn before, and my gut says that Dallas is going to be pretty dominant on defense here. But specifically, what are you seeing in the matchups, Rob?
So if we're looking at the matchups, just first of all, we've got Deron Bland coming in. Just set the record for most pick sixes in a season. Just had another INT for a return last week. He's going to be lining up on DK Metcalf most of the time. We know where Deron Bland's going to be. He's 87% going to be lining up on the right side of the defense. We know that DK is going to be over there 60% of the time. I think that's a matchup that's going to go in favor of Bland. You have Bland, a guy who's going to lead Geno more than likely, let DK get behind him, but has that quick catch-up speed to try to grab the ball. Geno has a slow delivery. That could be a recipe for disaster, maybe even another pick six for Bland. On the other side, you got Tyler Lockett going against Stephon Gilmore. A little better for Lockett, but still, I think Gilmore can shut him down. Again, we know where Gilmore is going to be. He's going to be on the left-hand side 90% of the time. Lockett's going to move around a little bit. If there's a weakness in the Dallas defense, it's the slot corner, and more than likely they're going to be shopping for a new one come this season. Jordan Lewis, he's there 98% of the time. He's going to line up on JSN most of the time. In the last 10 games, he's had one pass defended. He's allowed a QB rating of 118.5 versus, has allowed 3 touchdowns and an average of 15.9 yards per reception. So if I'm looking at the receivers on Seattle's side, I think DK is going to struggle. In fact, I think that I could see an INT coming from the side where DK's playing. I think Lockett's going to struggle. And if anybody's going to get open, I think maybe JSN. They've maybe a little bit with the tight ends, a little slop, for here and there with the running back. But those are the receivers that I'm looking at. So.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. So it sounds like if you're in a little bit of a jam at wide receiver, you've got JSN. He's been somebody who's not super startable, unless Lockett or Metcalf has been out. But he might be that sneaky play, maybe. Just if you need that home run shot because you've got so many players on bye. What do you think about that, Rob? Is he a guy that you'd feel okay starting, better than usual at least?
Yeah, if I'm in a Yahoo league and I've got guys on buys or injuries, I could see him putting up, 10 points if you're looking for a floor play. If you get lucky and he gets a touchdown, because that might be what you're hoping for, then you could have a week from him. But yeah, I think he's a good slop start, a good dumpster.
Nice. I like it. Yeah, and one of the other things that I kind of noticed last week, and I thought the announcers really kind of downplayed this, but it looked to me, Geno had that elbow / triceps injury coming out of week 11. And of course, last week, week 12, Thanksgiving, short week. But he just looked like he wasn't able to put his usual zip on the ball to me. It looked like he was pushing the ball downfield a lot more than swinging it downfield. And that led to at least one interception by San Francisco. And I thought, some other passes that got broken up that, just I don't think would have normally happened. So I'm going to be real interested to see, especially early on in the game, what kind of zip Geno's got on the ball. Because, I mean, if he's pushing passes again, this Dallas defense is just going to eat him alive, I'm afraid.
Carroll came out this week. Geno's been practicing, and apparently the big test was whether he was going to put a full practice in the other day. Carroll's coming out saying, yeah, healthy, but we all know Pete Carroll's a liar. He doesn't tell the truth when it comes to injuries, so we really don't know. I agree with you. He looked like slop. The arm looked dead. And with that, I was just talking about the slow delivery, and that's not going to help it at all. So yeah, I agree. We'll see what happens. We'll see if he comes out looking like he's got that same, dead arm. But
yeah, for sure. I think that's going to be a good one to watch out for. Let's touch on the Seattle running game a little bit. Do you have any thoughts on, Kenneth Walker's out. We're looking at Charbonnet. This is a guy, that we haven't been able to start in fantasy for sure up until last week. And then even last week, I think he was still under 10 points despite getting so much work. Of course, we know the 49ers defense is not too shabby, but then the Dallas defense is not too shabby either. How do you feel about Charbonnet? Is he somebody that is he going to be a slot starter, or is he going to be somebody you feel fairly confident about as a RB2, or on that, Rob?
I am not real confident starting Charbonnet in this at all. To be honest, his best skill set is going to be catching the ball out of the backfield, and that's what Dallas is great at stopping. They're number 2, giving up just 26 yards a game against the running back. So he's going between the tackles. I'm not sure if that's going to be his best role, but maybe. He's a bigger back. It's not that he's a small back. But I'm kind of staying away from Sharp if I have a choice. I think he's probably going to be a under 10 points. Under our threshold's really 14 points, but I think he's probably under double digits this week as far as a fantasy player.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think if he's going to get there, he almost has to kind of brute force his way there, more so on volume than on efficiency. And I think the volume is just going to be a little bit hard to come by unless, again, he can kind of catch a lot of those check downs, and get that, those pass for 3 yards, pass for 5 yards, whatever, that just kind of slowly add up in the fantasy game. So
now, the one thing I will add to that, though, is more than likely Pete Carroll's going to try to slow down that offense by running the clock and bleeding the clock. So I could see just a whole committee approach, just trying to get, he'll be pulling backs off the bench to run a couple of runs here, a couple of runs there. So I don't think it's all on Sharp either, but I just don't see much success going there.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that. So any other thoughts on the when Seattle has the ball on offense? Anything else that we've missed there?
Just that Jordan Lewis, the slot corner, is really the that's the target that I would think that they're going to go after. So probably JSN, or we might see DK in the slot here and there. But if they're going to have success, I think it's against that corner. The other guys on the outside, that's what this game's really about. We have star corners taking over this league in this game. Big 6'4" guys. That this is the new Legion of Doom, if you want, from Seattle. These two corners on the outside, Woolen and Witherspoon. It's going to be fun watching them. And, of course, you got Bland and Gilmore on with Dallas. So, yeah, this is going to be a fun game. But people don't really look at the corners coming in. These are the superstars for the next decade, these guys coming in, the young guys on the outside.
Yeah, and it's going to be contrasting styles too, because there are very few teams that play man as much as Dallas does. I have them at running right around 43%, depending on where you look. Some sites might have it a little bit different, but I don't have anybody who runs more than 43% man. Whereas Seattle, on the other hand, they're running man only about 14% of the time, according to my sources. So they're a lot more about they're going to be running zone or combo schemes of zone and man. So I think that's going to be kind of a fun contrast, and that kind of leads us into the Dallas offense. How is Dallas going to attack that defense?
Well, and I love listening to what you have to say because you always make me think of more stuff. DK Metcalf struggles against man defenses. Predominantly man defenses is his kryptonite. So that's one more strike against DK for this game. So, but looking at the Dallas wide receivers, Gallup, CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Cooks. Again, I was already talking about Devon Witherspoon and Tariq Woolen coming into this game. Woolen's in his second year. Witherspoon, this is his rookie year. He's probably, the best rookie corner that came in this year. Size and length. He's going to pretty much erase Brandon Cooks this game. I mean, Brandon Cooks has been coming on a little bit. I wouldn't expect it in this game from Brandon Cooks. Woolen's going to probably line up on Michael Gallup about half the time, with Jamal Adams, the safety, lining up on CD. I think they do enough to slow down Dallas on the outsides. I think that we get a lot of receptions again with CD, maybe some to the tight end. But I do think you're going to see Gallup and Cooks get shut down in this. And I don't expect, even though we've had, I think, 3 touchdowns or more the last 3 games that we've had Dak playing at home, I don't think he's going to make 3 touchdowns in this game. And I'm not sure he's going to make 2. It's going to be tough for him to throw on the outsides. So
yeah. That's definitely an interesting thought. That certainly, I think leads us even more strongly in favor of the under here, because if we don't think Dallas is going to get there with a lot of points, it's tough to see how the over is even going to hit. To me, that seems like the one pathway is for Dallas to just absolutely dominate. And I suppose if you're the type of person who believes Dallas can. Run back a couple pick sixes or something like that, their defense can maybe contribute enough to get to the over. But, to me, that seems like a pretty thin path to be counting on multiple pick sixes there. How about the Dallas run game against Seattle?
Well, looking at the Dallas run game, first of all, looking at the Seattle rush defense, number 18, they're averaging giving up about 120, 117, 18 yards a game. Number 10 against the running backs coming out of the backfield. I'm by the way, I'm using DVOA for this for when I'm talking about rankings.
Mm-hmm.
I would look, that offensive line for Dallas has just been on a tear. This might be the best that they've been playing all year long, the healthiest they've been all year long. Zach Martin, Tyron Smith. Tyron Smith is probably going to be an all-pro this year. They rested him, but they haven't given up a sack in 3 games. I expect that they're going to run the ball okay. Rico Dowdle had an illness, so he sat out. But I would expect a good, if I'm not expecting a passing game, and I do expect Dallas to win and maybe even cover, then I think it's coming from the run game. And so, yeah, this might be the one where we're looking past the running backs and we finally get some of those, big runs.
Yeah, and to your point, I think it's a great point that Dallas's offensive line is as healthy as it's been all year. And I would say Tony Pollard is probably as healthy as he's been all year too. He has not, I'm not breaking news here. He has not looked good all year. But the last couple weeks, I felt like he had a lot more burst. I was seeing him look a little bit more like the old Tony Pollard. And I think that goes back to his injury at the end of last year when he broke his lower leg and had that ankle sprain. So, that's a pretty serious injury that I think takes a little bit more to recover from than most people are willing to give credit to. You lose a lot of strength in that leg while the healing process is going on, and just kind of getting everything back up to speed, getting to the point where you feel comfortable cutting on it and everything. That's I think that's been something that's been weighing on Pollard, and I think he's really starting to kind of finally break loose a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see how he does in this game. But I feel cautiously optimistic for sure about my Pollard shares that I'm going to be starting in the game tonight. Any other thoughts on that, Rob?
Yeah, no, complete agreement. Yeah, I think Pollard would be the play. I mean, if we're just by process of elimination, it's got to go there. That's and with the strengths against the weaknesses, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Sounds good. Yeah. So Seattle defense, if you've got to start them in fantasy, do you feel very good about it?
The Seattle defense, if I have to start them in fantasy, I mean, I don't feel great. I mean, how can you feel great going into Dallas, right? I mean, they haven't turned over the ball in 3 games. We just got done talking about. Hasn't thrown an interception. But yeah, I wouldn't feel great. I tend to, in fantasy, stream defenses that are playing at home. I'm looking more at the offense that they're going against, and I really wouldn't want a defense going against Dak and the Cowboys at home. I mean, that sounds like, fantasy suicide.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, Seattle has been one of the top defenses this year, but, over the past few weeks, they haven't been putting up points to nearly the same effect. And this matchup looks, completely terrible to me. So I do have Seattle in a few spots, and pretty much every one of those spots I ran out and got like the Chargers going against New England, or, somebody like that, where I felt like I had a better shot so that I can bench that Seattle defense. I think there was only one league where I looked at who was left on defense, and it was like, just absolutely terrible options. So it's like, what, I'll just take my chances with Seattle, but I don't feel great about that. So, and then the Dallas defense, I think obviously we feel great about, right? This has been the number one defense all year, and it looks like the good times might just keep coming this week. Yeah.
I keep talking about the matchup with Deron Bland, but it really does complement with what's going on with Geno and the delay in the release and then how quick he is right now. Right this second, he is one of those special players. I could see it happening again. I could see him picking it off and going for another touchdown this week. I mean, he's playing at home. Everything just seems to line up, for him to get the opportunities to get ahead at home. I could see points coming from the Dallas defense again. And we just got done saying too, if Geno's getting sacked more than a couple times a game, 2.5 times a game, they're losing the game. And if they're losing the game, they're not scoring 20 points. And so, where you kind of put it all together in a row, it's again kind of playing to the under, playing towards the Dallas defense, maybe the Dallas rushing game, and maybe a little bit on the other side with JSN getting some, slot time.
Yeah, totally makes sense. How about the kicking game? I mean, I know we hate kickers in fantasy. I have a love-hate relationship with them myself. But
not me, and that gives us an edge, man. The people that hate it, there's a lot of random to it, but still,
right. I've done some studies where I've looked into it, and it's like, if you're playing like, 2 or 3 wide receivers, 2 running backs, a tight end, and then a couple flexes, that last flex is absolutely no more trustworthy than a kicker, and usually less trustworthy than a kicker. So, to me, kickers in fantasy, I think they are a place where you can gain an edge. It's one place I definitely strongly look to try to have an edge every week. and I'll move around on different kickers, as I see fit to try to get that edge. But let's look at these two kickers. Let's start with Jason Myers. We're looking at a team that's probably not going to hit a lot of points here. We're talking about the under hitting, so that's not a great environment. We're talking about being on the losing side. That's not a great environment for a kicker, because these are the situations where we see teams, they will forego the field goal because they got to score a touchdown. At times they'll even forego the extra point because they got to go for two, which puts a lot of pressure on a kicker to, if he's only got one or two kicks, to maximize those kicks. And you kind of got to hope they're coming from 50 yards or something like that, so you can put together a lot of points just off of a couple opportunities. Any other thoughts on the kicker on that side, Rob?
Yeah. The kicker for Seattle really doesn't do a lot of long kicks. He's really known more for shorter, getting a bunch of 40-yarders, 30-yarders. Whereas on Dallas, I really do like the kicking opportunity for the kicker for Dallas. I think that this is a perfect example where, if we're not able to score touchdowns, but we're able to drive between the 20s, he's going to probably get a lot of opportunities. And I do think that the Seattle corners will be able to match up on the outsides. I think CD is going to have a good game. CD has a great matchup, but I just don't think that's enough to push the needle all the way up. So.
Yep, totally makes sense. I think probably your biggest concern with Brandon Aubrey is just that he ends up kicking nothing but extra points, which can occasionally happen. But honestly, wow, that was a bird just hitting my window.
Good luck. Good luck.
In case anybody's wondering what that loud thump was, that was a robin that just absolutely crashed. But he seemed to be okay. He flew off, so that's good.
Didn't hurt.
Yep, didn't hurt. So I got an interesting situation I'll run by you, Rob, that has to do with the Dallas kicker. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm in. Theo and I are sharing a team in the super bracket on FFPC, and the way that the super bracket works is, the league play is now over, and so. Out of the 96 teams that are in this whole competition, the top 32 are now in basically a March Madness style bracket, right? And so that means that you can end up with the same players as your competition sometimes. And the team we're going up against this week, we both have Brandon Aubrey at kicker. He has not gone out and gotten another kicker. I guess, technically he probably could, but he's got Aubrey in his lineup right now. We have Aubrey in our lineup, but I also have Matt Gay, kicker for Indiana, going up against Tennessee, sitting on my bench. So, I'm
wow, that's a tough call because Matt Gay is so up and down.
Right.
I mean, I would almost. I feel more confident with the Aubrey kicker to do better.
The thing is with Aubrey, of course, since he has him and I have him, basically it throws him out the window completely.
Right.
So you're basically saying, hey, the
9 on 9.
Yeah, it's 9 on 9, not 10 on 10 anymore. So,
how do you feel about the rest of your team?
Yeah, see, that's the thing. I think, looking at his team versus our team, I think we should probably be a slight favorite. So my gut is saying we'll probably stay with Aubrey here. But having the option to go to Gay is sort of an interesting, adds an interesting twist to it. So
this week I would stick with Aubrey. I just don't. I think it's going to be. It's going to be harder, I think, for them to get the points this week. I just in my gut. And I think that Aubrey's going to end up scoring more. But it's so hard. They're kickers are like trying to predict the weather.
Isn't that the truth? Yeah, no doubt about it. So yeah, it's a fun little dilemma that I'll be wrestling with this afternoon. But it is.
I wish you luck. It really comes down, I think, to just if you thought you were like desperate with the rest of your lineup and you just felt like you needed something to give you a difference, then maybe I would push it a little more. But if I felt confident with my lineup the way it was and I felt good with my matchups, then I'd just let it ride.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm leaning right now. But yeah, definitely a fun little decision. So let's jump in there and pick a couple of let's pick some players for tonight. You got any props that you like?
I do.
Okay.
One thing before I get off all this stuff, though, I do want to mention something. Devon Witherspoon, right? This guy, like, I don't know why nobody's talking about him. He's one of 9 players in the last 18 years to get 14 passes defended and 3 sacks in a season, and he's still got a bunch of games to go. I mean, like, of those 9 players, you're talking about Charles Woodson, Brian Dawkins, J.J. Watt. I mean, these guys are superstars. I mean, nobody's taught, and he's only played half the time. The other half of the time, he's been splitting with Trey Brown. I mean, I don't know why people aren't talking about this, but this guy's off the chain, and he's barely seen the field. And for him to put up this kind of stuff, nobody's even talking about him. Yeah, he's part of the new Legion of Boom, and people don't know it's there. It's there. They still got a couple missing pieces, but it's coming together.
I'll take it.
So getting going with that theme.
And while you're doing that, can I just say that hearing J.J. Watt on that list is probably the wildest thing I've heard all day, Rob.
Oh, he's going to be a Hall of Famer too. Yeah, it is kind of crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, how many passes defense was that?
He had
more than what?
It was let's see, 14 passes defended and 3 sacks. So he had his rookie year. He had 14 passes defended. At least 14 defended.
Wow.
I know, that's crazy, isn't it?
It is. That's you could win a bar bet on that one for sure.
Yeah, not a bad idea. All right. So sticking with our Witherspoon pick and our Bland pick, we like the under 47.5. I think we kind of talked about that. So I think I like the under. DK under 59.5 yards versus Darren Bland. We just we were talking about that, the slow delivery versus Bland. I think Bland probably even picks one off, maybe gets another one to the house. I like CD over 82.5 yards versus Jamal Adams. That's probably the nicest matchup of the day. CD's averaging more than that. I think that he's got an advantage against the safety who's going to be coming up against him in the slot. I think that's going to be a good bet. I like we were talking about Aubrey and it's 1.5 field goals. I like him to get more than 2 field goals. I mean, I like him to get 2+. I mean, so I certainly like 1.5. And then my riskiest pick is the JSN anytime touchdown. I think things are going to bog down for Seattle once they get inside the 20. They're probably not going to be able to run the ball. They're not going to be throwing it to the halfback. They got the outsides covered. Somebody's got to come over the middle. Maybe a tight end, but I'm kind of thinking JSN. That's 3-1 odds for JSN to take a anytime touchdown. So,
wow, yeah, that's great. I think that's a fun little bet right there for sure. All right.
How about you, sir? What are you thinking? What are you looking at?
Yeah, I like. I definitely like that CeeDee Lamb. I feel like that's a good one. I like the DK under as well. I think, if I had to pick somebody other than JSN, I think I would probably take Lockett on this one, just because it seems whenever Metcalf is bottled up, Lockett seems to find a way to come through and shine. No matter how tough the matchup is for him, that's just been one of those things that seems to happen more often than not. So I like that a lot. I'm not sure what the yardage props are on. Do you happen to have what like Tony Pollard? What his props are?
Let me look.
This is great radio. You can tell Rob and I. We've not done this before. I should have looked that up before I got.
Are we looking at receiving props, or are we looking at rushing props?
Yeah, rushing or combined rushing and receiving, I think would be interesting.
Well, for rushing stats, Tony Pollard is over 62.5. For receiving, it is 21.5. So I imagine you put them together for rushing and receiving.
Yeah. Yeah, usually they give you a little bump on that where you don't have to get all the way there on both. But, I think I'd probably feel pretty good about that, taking that rushing stat, taking the over on that. Just going to look up real quick.
I kind of like the receiving for Tony Pollard. The over's 21.5, and you have Seattle that's averaging giving up 41 yards a game. Rico Dowdle had a illness during the week, so he hasn't been practicing the last couple of days. So good chance and we were just talking about, we think that Pollard is as healthy as he's been. The offensive line's as healthy as they've been. Yeah, 21 yards it seems like one catch. And maybe I'm wrong, but
could be. Yeah, his average reception's been kind of, for most of the year, it's been kind of down, especially recently. 2 yards, 4 yards, 4.8, 4.0. So he may take a few catches to get there, but he's been kind of, his rushing numbers have been getting better and better. He's gone from 29 to 30 to 53 to 51 to 55 to 61 to 79 over his past several games. So he's kind of moving in the right direction there. So I'm gonna take that rushing prop. Sounds like you're on that receiving prop, and I think both of them are pretty interesting.
I actually think you made a lot of sense. You spun me.
So yeah, that would be a fun one too. So and I also like your Dak. What are we at on him? Is it 2.5 TDs?
Yeah, I think that for Dak, his passing props, 1.5 touchdowns, and here he's been. It's almost like they know. I think that he's going to get held down tonight. Maybe one rushing touchdown for Dak. I can see Dak rush him for one. Yeah,
that could be too. I think that's probably a number I wouldn't touch.
Full practice today. Okay. Yeah, it was supposed to be like a flu or something. Nobody's done the injury report, so it's not like they're listing anybody as being questionable or anything like that.
Yep, for sure. All right. Anything else, Rob, that you want to cover before we catch at least one listener question I've seen? If anybody else has questions, go ahead and fire them off in the chat. Start sits or anything else that on your mind.
Yeah, while everybody's getting their questions together, I'll just fire off some quick stats. So Cowboys, they've won 14 straight at home. When they played Seattle, 5-2 with the under. The last 7 games when the Seahawks have played at Dallas, the under's covered 5 times. 10-5 whenever Seattle's played the Cowboys has been the under, 10-5 under to over. Some other kind of interesting stats with Dak. Dak's been setting records. 129.3 passer rating, second best in the NFL. Last 3 at home, he's gone 300-plus yards passing, 4 touchdowns in the last 3. So in each game, 4 touchdowns, and we're looking at a line of saying he's going to get under 2. He's got 2+ in 5 straight games. That's the current longest in the league. Tony Romo has a franchise mark of throwing 2+ touchdowns in 7 straight games. So we're coming up on a Dallas record also. Nice. You're looking – all right, so go ahead. Ferguson? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good question. Ferguson is kind of a tough one for me, just because we've been seeing a little bit more of I'm blanking on his name, not Hendershot, but
I know what you're talking about, Schoonmaker.
Yes, Schoonmaker, and then we've got Hendershot coming back from the IR. The Dallas tight end situation's looking a little bit more like a mess. Ferguson's not a guy I'm excited about using unless I just really need to, and I certainly can understand if you really need to this week. There's some good tight ends that are on bye, so some of us may have no choice but to just put in the guy and hope for the best.
Yeah, look, I'm not as shady on Ferguson. I think the outsides are getting shut down. I think the short middle is going to open up. So I think, yeah, I don't hate Ferguson. I think he's top 7, 8 this week. If but that's, I mean, it's not great, but and some other little quick stats. Seattle, number 15 against the tight end, so middle of the pack, giving up about 51.2 yards per game. So about middle of the pack with that too. Um, so I don't hate Ferguson tonight. I kind of I think I like, if I'm looking at players, I can see Ferguson and Pollard having okay games, good games. So
All right, Rob, you flipped me on that one. That's a good point. So, yeah, Ferguson. After hearing that, I'm a little bit more on board with Ferguson. I think that makes a little bit of sense. And Rich is asking specifically. He's got McBride all over now, faced with playing Ferguson tonight, risking no McBride on Sunday. If he doesn't play Ferguson tonight. So yeah, and it's there's nobody on the waiver wire. Rob and I were talking about that pre-show. It is a wasteland out there. Even the tumbleweeds are gone. So it's
this time of year it's brutal.
Yeah, for sure. For Rich, all I would say is just wait as late as possible to make that decision. See if you can get any intel on McBride. My guess is if he practices today, then he's probably okay. And so if you'd rather play him, that's probably a pretty good way to go. But there's it's not the end of the world if you got to play Ferguson for sure. All right, so we got a couple people asking about Charbs or Chuba.
I like Chuba.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Chuba is playing. Who are they playing? The Bucks, who do have a pretty stout rush defense, but they're not impenetrable or anything like that. I probably lean towards Chuba here as well, but I mean honestly, I'm not going to be surprised in either way that it goes.
Yeah, I like Chuba. I'd be kind of leaning Chuba over Charbs. I just think it's going to be real difficult on the running backs here in Dallas.
Yeah, I think so. And to a certain extent, I also like, if I have a pretty decent option, one that, to me is kind of equivalent with a Thursday option, I'd almost rather play, assuming the rest of my lineup is fairly healthy, I almost rather play that guy on Sunday rather than on Thursday, just because of the fact that, sometimes weird things happen between now and Sunday. And, you might have a backup who all of a sudden, like the starter gets hurt and boom, your starter, your backup is now a starter or whatever. But I know a lot of people like to go the other way. They're like, hey, I'm going to take the bird in the hand right now. I know that Charbs is healthy. Anything can happen to Chuba between now and then. And so I'm just going to go with the player I know is playing. So either way you like to play it.
Yeah, I like to, unless I know the matchup is there. I mean, I'm always matchup based. Unless I know the matchup there, if it's iffy, I want to wait. If I know it's there, and I'm reading in the chat that they released Ertz today, the cards, and so if they released Ertz, you have to think McBride is going to go on Sunday. So I wouldn't necessarily play Ferguson. I didn't see him go out of that last game, and McBride has been on just such a tear lately that if I'm shooting for upside, it's playoff time. I'm definitely not shooting for upside with Ferguson, but yeah, I would have a backup plan just in case.
Yep, for sure. Okay, and we've got a dynasty question as well here from Rubio. Got offered Chase for my CD. I'm not doing anything this season with that team, but next year with a healthy Burrow and maybe no Higgins. So I think let's look at the healthy Burrow. Maybe no Higgins. That is a maybe. I think if Higgins goes away, that they address wide receiver somehow, probably through the draft. And with a relatively early-ish pick. I do think they'd like to get something done with Higgins if they can, but who knows if they'll be able to. I mean, Burrow's contract is going to start carrying more and more weight as it moves along here. So I don't remember exactly what his cap hit is next year, but I do know it's going to be tough for him to sign Higgins. I think what it comes down to is Jamar Chase really that much better than CD at this point? I mean, I know that we are coming off of like basically 2 years where it was Jefferson and Chase, and it's like the conversation ends there. I think you can also now throw CD Lamb and maybe AJ Brown into the same conversation as those guys. Both of those guys have looked really, really good. I'm not sure that Dak is any worse of a quarterback than Burrow. Health-wise, Burrow is actually, he's missed a couple half seasons now. He's going to be coming into this next season coming off of, a torn tendon in his wrist. Does not give me a lot of confidence for Burrow. I mean, I'm not like thinking he's for sure going to be hurt, but on the other hand, I have less confidence in Burrow probably right now than I've had at any point in his career other than when he was a rookie. What are your thoughts on that, Rob?
I think Cincinnati's entering salary cap hell. I think that they're going to have some problems coming up and some tough decisions. So, yeah, I do think Higgins probably leaves. Is that end up with more volume to Chase? Look, Chase is pretty much on the outside, whereas you get CD, he moves around and he's going to go in the slot a lot more. Dak is playing the best football of his career, and you've got Burrow with this Achilles. Well, not Achilles, a calf. But I listen to this guy Dan, and he talks about how that might be a precursor to maybe an Achilles. I listen to this guy, so that's a lot of red flags coming out of Cincinnati, a historically snake-bitten team in a division that does not score a lot of points compared to Dallas. I think I'm starting to convince myself that I like CD more than Chase these days.
Yeah, I think for sure it's definitely not a terrible offer, and I think it's one that you probably wouldn't get without the Burrow injury at all. So you can talk yourself into it that way, and you can say, well, this offer probably doesn't come around again, and maybe it doesn't. But if CD does as well as we think, it is possible that it does come around again. And I'm just, JD, a guy I listen to a lot. He hates these 1-for-1 trades, between the same position. It's like, what are you really getting here? You both feel like you're trying to get one over on the other guy. And, maybe one of you's right, but, maybe not. I would, if you want to pursue something like this, I would look for another way that you can add value that works well for your team and maybe works well for his team too. Like let's add a couple running backs in here. Let's put in a couple tight ends. Let's add some more pieces to this trade and make it a little bit more interesting where, it's not just sort of a, this is almost like trading, first round picks, in the next rookie draft or whatever. It's just basically like saying I know fantasy better than you know fantasy type thing. So, depending on how you feel about all that, I think we've kind of fleshed out that discussion pretty well anyway.
Yeah. One thing I'd add too, if he's offering Chase, he's thinking the same things we're talking about. So he might have a little panic there. You might be able to squeeze a little bit more out of this and see what he's got on his roster. Make it a little bit. What's that theme song? Make it a little bit more complicated so that he doesn't know what's good.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, yes. When in doubt, muddy up the waters a little bit more. Force the other guy to think. So, don't mind that at all. All right, well, Rob. It looks like we've pretty well hit all the questions here. You have anything else that you'd like to cover on the way out?
No, guys, I'm all set.
All right. Well, I really, really, really enjoyed the time talking with you here, Rob. This was a lot of fun. It's great to get in on this, and it's a fun show all around. I think we covered this game pretty well. So if you've got players in this game, you probably know what you want to do at this point. We want to thank all of our audience for listening in, all the questions, everything else. You guys are one of the greatest audiences out there, I think. The chat room is just always lit. So really appreciate that. That's it just makes it so much fun for us as hosts when we have a lot of people, chiming in, and sometimes we got discussions going on in the chat that even have nothing to do with what we're talking about. But even that is a lot of fun because it's just all good fantasy talk going back and forth. So we've got one of the sharpest audiences around, and we appreciate you guys for that. So.
That's exactly it. I got to say, just to interrupt you, probably one of the savviest communities in on the internet, certainly in regards to fantasy football. The people that tune into GOAT, different level of fantasy listener. Everything when we get to GOAT, it's action advice. So, appreciate everybody who comes onto the GOAT district. Appreciate the chat because everybody's always bringing something.
Yep, without a doubt. All right. Well, guys, we are out of here. We're going to let you get back to your day, and we will check you all later.
GOAT district, the Pope listens. Dynasty, our religion, for the blokes missing. On all of these trades, on all of these plays, on all of these grades. By the end of the day, y'all getting played. So, what you gonna do next? Try to fill up that flex? Send the homie a text? That trash offer's the best? You try to make it complex, then they text you back. Now all of a sudden, they don't make any sense. Broaden your horizons, boy. Dynasty's not for the Simons, boy. These trades not for consignment, boy. Respect your opponent, y'all some piranhas, boy. This my advice, from me to you. Open up your cute little podcast queue. Search up GOAT District, my dude. Pop it in your ear, man, y'all know what to do. It's the... And I always be traded. And I always be traded. And I always be trading. Y'all try to betray them, but first you gotta bait them. Fish.